Like, uh, this is something I gotta deal with. I mean, it's a part of life because everybody background that may live here or move throughout here or still currently living here may have not subdued the things that I've already been through. Some of them may have lived here all their life and that's all they know. And see, I lived in a variety of areas, and I never lived in what you would call a low poverty stricken area. All the areas I ever lived in. This is like a different challenge for me and my children. So we still growing day by day, trying to, you know, acknowledge that this is home now, and this is some things you might not want to tolerate, but you just have to hold on, count to 10 sometimes, and you know, try not to just be cordial and try not to be in the middle of things that really shouldn't be, you know, that you shouldn't be involved, that you know better, you know. That's my thing. That's my motto. If it's none of your business, stay out of it. Don't make comments, don't, you know, and if you already know how society is, it doesn't have to be your neighborhood, it just be in general. You know what is control, and if you can't control yourself, then you know that you need to take a step forward. You need to look in the mirror. Basically.
And what can you be specific maybe about some of the things that you're referring to that you didn't particularly care for?
As far as like being a new neighbor of the neighborhood?
You know, just in the area. I mean, I asked you what your first impressions were.
Well, I lived here in the neighborhood, but not on Greenleaf property. My oldest daughter, which was my first daughter, we lived on 240 M Street, which is down the street, and that's the condominiums. So that's why I said it's a big change from coming from a condo house or just outside of the neighborhood period and living in public housing. I never experienced public housing as a youngster, and nor have my kids since we moved into Greenleaf. So it's a change for them. They're not used to hearing violence, seeing violence, the cursing. What's some of the, you know, like some of the basic things, you know, the loudness. You know, they're used to quiet, you know, basically suburb life. They're accustomed to that more so than living in project life. So.
Are there any positives to living in this community?
Yeah, it is, because like I just stated a few moments ago, if you mind your business, a lot of aggravation or annoyance won't bother you. Some of your neighbors, they know more about you than you think they know. They know more about you. They know who come in your home. They know what's the word I want to say? Like I gave you a description of how many members I have in my home. As far as the female to male, they can tell you, you know, and they be like, oh, as one gentleman, he works at the Southwest Family Home, I forget his name, but he speaks to me every day when he see me, and he told me, yeah, you live in that house, you're the new one, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. You think that you not, what is it, out of the light? Yeah, you're in the light more than what you think you know.
Is there a sense of community here?
Yeah, it is. It is some people that are close knit. You have some that's just you have your elder tight knit. You have your middle class, middle age, and then you have your elder, and then you have your youngster, and then so on. That grew up because they know how to adapt. See, with me, if I would have came into the neighborhood and felt as though threatened, I probably wouldn't even be sitting in here talking to you now.
So you have a sense of belonging here. I mean,
yeah, because I know some people remember me from high school that I didn't even know that acknowledged me through high school because I was kind of quiet. You know, I don't. It's not that I stay to myself. It's just I mind my business and I go do my responsibilities. Asking me to do is take care of my kids, make sure they're well provided for, and so on.
What are your views about the surrounding neighborhood? Not Greenleaf, but the areas surrounding. Is there a sense of community, divisions, people united? What are your views there?
It's a little bit of a separation because just because we have a lot of new being built among us, meaning not just Greenleaf property itself, you got the senior building, and then you got the 203 building, then you got James Creek on the other side, and a part of Safax Gardens housing developments too. So you have all of that, and then you have the new being built, meaning you have the baseball stadium already, you have new things growing, restaurants, property growing up towards Navy Yard, and now you're going to have more new things up at the down the street at the Wharf. You have a brand new playhouse, which is the arena stage. You have a brand new Safeway. You have a new grocery store. Harris Teeter is going to open up soon. And from, I'm not even sure if any of the neighbors know that a movie theater is coming here soon. You know, just because you see buildings up and growing, meaning apartment buildings, better style, newness coming along. My thing is, do my neighbors know? Do they know? Do they know that eventually our 4, 3, 5, I don't think we have 6 bedrooms here, but the space that we have, and it's not much, but do we know it's all may disappear one day? I'm not saying it will, because I don't know, but it could. And less than 2, 3 years from now, it could. It could.
And how is that? How does the new development threaten this community?
The housing market itself. A lot of us, like myself, I have the number of children I have. Then in the space that they're making for homes, it won't accommodate me. It won't accommodate me at all. As far as income-wise, it won't accommodate me either. It's going to be, it's not going to be, it's going to double the expense about next 2 years. It's already expensive now. It's going to double. For the research, these houses that we live in, been on this property since 1958. As far as the expenses and living from public housing versus to market rate, we're gonna suffer. You know, if we, like, I'm a resident council member, I'm a secretary for Greenleaf, and if we can have our community come out, meaning my neighbors, and that want to be here at Greenleaf and to stay because they know that this is up and coming, and which it is. You have your Capitol Hill, you have your Eastern Market. Between one of them two, Southwest may become #1 or #2 to being a popular spot to live in the Washington, D.C. area. Not sure, I'm not saying it will, but we could, because as we have the stadium already, we're supposed to get a soccer stadium, and then you have the Fisherman's Wharf down the street, and you have the arena stage. You're walking distance from all the local museums. As far as the White House, if you're on prime property. You right here. You have the Metro. You have 2 access to Metro. You have 3 to 4 buses besides the 2 rush hour buses that run through LaFont Plaza. You have too many local ways to get in and out. And then you have the Martin Luther King Memorial. You can walk down there. You have the cherry blossoms. You can walk down there. You know, you can walk to the monument. You have all this right here. And to not know from, if you had a choice, like Savile, I put my name on the list and I say, okay, they give you a few choices because you was willing to accept to moving into public housing. You had a choice from living in all the other public housing locations that they had available to you and your family. You picked Southwest. It's a good choice. It's a good choice because you're not even picturing, not only that they are redesigning the neighborhood, yes, it's going to be a change. It's going to be hard for the neighbors to accept change. That's a big issue I think that's in our neighborhood. A lot of the older, some in the middle, the young, you know, we move and shake every day. You know, that's just, it's a part of growing up to us. But it has gotten so expensive for certain things for the young versus to when the older was coming along. So, you know, it's changing. It's changing fast. It's not changing slowly. Because technically, if you look at it from where we're sitting right now, there's nowhere else to dig. But you have that open area park across the street from the library and where we're sitting now. Where else is to dig? Because they already put in the baseball stadium, they already got the wharf, there's nowhere else to dig. They're not going to tear down any apartment buildings anytime soon. So if anything else to be dug, it probably would be something in public housing.
Yeah, so I mean that leads to the next question. How does it make you feel to know that the government wants to demolish this?
Painful. It's painful. Like I said, the hourly rate for some of us that do have jobs and live here, some of us are not receiving time. Some of us only survive off our food stamps and then the part-time jobs that we do uphold for those who are working. And we have to have medical for our children or our grandparents or the elderly that we are taking care of in our home. It's painful. It really is, because your market rent in this area for a regular 1 or 2 bedroom apartment could be like $2,000 a month at least, no more than $1,130 at the most, and that's for like a 1 bedroom. That's not even a 2 bedroom.
Well, what do you think that can be done about that? What can residents do to push back and save their community?
We need to be able to have a voice for ourselves. Just like I'm sitting here having an interview, come out and talk. It's not about somebody doing video of you, taking pictures of you, and you may or may not be on the wanted list. It's not about that. It's about, okay, you might be wanted, but your mother live here, your aunt live here. What about their shelter? You come to visit, aren't you? You know, you want a place to stay, you know, and when something's being built, like we have the new playground, you don't want your neighbors keep talking about, yeah, those people over there, those people. Who are those people? We're the same as you. It doesn't matter what color we are. We live here too. Not all of us, because you thinking that we don't pay rent. We pay rent. We may not pay as much as you do, but we pay rent in public housing.
So you're getting at the divisions and at how people view people, lower income people or people of color that live in the surrounding areas.
They always, the view that they always put out there, which is a part of the media, which is kind of social, however you want to take it. A lot of the neighbors or people that they don't want to be interviewed, because once we put our heart and soul of saying a comment, it doesn't matter what it is. Sometimes the comment is a little bit overwhelming, but some of it, if you listen to it, we're trying to make a point. It's like we need help. Say, what's the word I want to say? At one time, this area was a hot spot. It's still a few shootings, but not enough murders, so we're not considered a hot spot anymore. Basically, we kind of, that bothers some of the people. It bothers. They may not voice it, but it bothers some of the people. Because when you put us out there on the news, or you read about the neighborhood because somebody got robbed or whatever. Just so last night, I was just up the street by Navy Yard, where the new houses are off of 3rd and 4th Street, southeast. Seen a man and a lady taking a walk, and I couldn't believe what I saw in his back pocket, and she was holding in her hand a hammer. I didn't say nothing. They looked back at me, trying to conceal it, but that's what I seen. And it hurt me to my heart that I was on my way walking home to Southwest. So my thing is, if you fear the neighborhood, then why did you move in?
I'm Charles Allen.
Charles Allen. Charles Allen. Where are you a resident? You are a resident of this neighborhood.
I'm actually a resident of 16th and D Northeast near Rosedale. I am the Democratic nominee to be the next Ward 6 council member.
Okay.
And so I will, more likely than not, will be the incoming council member for this neighborhood.
Okay. Well, then these questions don't necessarily pertain to you.
They do and they don't. I won't be answering as a resident, but as somebody who will be making decisions and representing this neighborhood, and have worked with a lot of folks throughout Southwest for several years.
Okay, well, can you tell me what it is you know about this development, this Greenleaf development, where we're situated now?
Sure. I mean, Greenleaf is a very important part of our housing community in the Southwest neighborhood. Obviously, we have James Creek and Syfax, but Greenleaf is one of the few places where we really have the type of housing that can help accommodate families as well. You know, we have 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom units that can really help accommodate and help serve families. A lot of our public housing is frequently 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom. This is one of the few places, not just in Southwest, but in the city, that does that. And it's really important as we have to help address all of our housing needs in the city. Greenleaf is a big part of the solution.
And how does this type of housing jibe or relate or mesh with the other forms of housing that are in the surrounding area?
Well, one of the things I find interesting, and probably in not many other neighborhoods will you find a community where residents of both public housing as well as residents not of public housing talk about the value of public housing and are willing to fight and want to defend and help protect the importance of public housing. So for example, when I was campaigning, I'd be going door to door in the neighborhoods immediately around Greenleaf. I would have residents all the time. The first question they'd ask me, it wasn't about retail on 4th Street, it wasn't about Metro, it wasn't about anything else. I got asked point blank all the time, are you going to help make sure we protect public housing in Southwest? And they would point to Greenleaf. So it's a very special, Southwest is a very special neighborhood that really embraces and really wants to see this type of diversity in community, diversity in housing, and realizes that we all have to fight to protect it.
Wow. Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting. I'm curious about what makes this unique compared to other areas that haven't had that kind of a camaraderie.
I don't know if I have the answer to it. You know, I think when you try to think about what makes this unique, where you have that experience, I think a little bit has to do just within the DNA of Southwest. You know, it is a very special neighborhood. It is one that is also very close.
And so small in size.
Small in size. Neighbors see each other and know each other. It's a very stable neighborhood. And so we have very strong civic organizations as well. So when you talk about the Southwest Neighborhood Assembly, you talk about our ANC, these are institutions that have served a broad diversity, that have people who really embrace and understand what diversity means. And so I think that's why you see that in Southwest. It's a really special place, and it is something you don't necessarily always see when we talk in the context of making sure that everyone sees the value of public housing. You don't always see that in every neighborhood. You do in Southwest.
Is there anything missing from this community that you would like to see in place, or things that you're advocating for?
There certainly are a couple things. One is that I think the neighborhood at large, Southwest, continues to need to have more small businesses. I think that it accomplishes two things. Small businesses are important because they serve our needs. So residents have places where they can go. All the time I get people who say, I just need a hardware store. You know, I need to buy a hammer. I just need something. I don't have that in my neighborhood. But our small businesses also create a lot of jobs. When we talk about other neighborhoods, small businesses, more so than your big anchors. You know, I mean, the Safeway is great. We hire Southwest residents at the Safeway. But your small businesses employ a very large number of people from the neighborhood. Because as a small business, you want to know that person can walk to work, they can ride the bike, they can take the bus, they're right in the neighborhood. That's an important part of that. So I really want to work on small businesses in Southwest. That's going to be an important part of what I think I can accomplish.
And what are your views about the development that's planned for Southwest as well?
Well, I went out early on, and because I've worked in South, I mean, I'm not new to Southwest or to the neighborhoods. I've been working for the last 8 to 10 years. I believe very strongly that we've got to have this housing protected. And in the event there's a conversation around any type of future of Greenleaf, the city has to be willing to commit to a build first philosophy. And when I look across South Capitol Street, we can probably point to some things at the Capra Carrollsburg where we say, okay, there's some nice parts of that, but some things that we did wrong, and we, I mean as a city, is that we shut down block after block after block after block of a neighborhood, of a community, and then just moved everybody out, wiped it clean, and then started rebuilding. And we are not done yet. The city has not completed and replaced all of those units yet. It's going to be several more years before we do. And as a result, you have really, you know, if you come back 10 years later and tell me I can move back to my home a decade later, a lot happens in a decade. A lot happens in my life in 10 years, as with anybody. And so that's not a true replacement and returning in the spirit in which it should be. So I believe very strongly in a build first, in that in the event that we come to consensus as a community around how we go about that, it has to follow a build first so that housing and residents stay in a community neighborhood. If you wipe it out and then say 10 years later, okay, now it's time to come back, you've decimated the neighborhood. It doesn't exist in the same way it did before.
What can people do to ensure that or fight for that? You know, what strategies can people utilize to make sure that that happens?
Well, I think that they are in the process of that right now. I think certainly talking to elected leaders, talking to people who are going to be making a lot of those decisions and getting those commitments, having them understand what the neighborhood needs, I think that's a big part of that. I know that one of my jobs is going to be convincing my colleagues on the council or convincing others in leadership that this is the right decision. You know, I was having a conversation recently with somebody who, I won't say their name, but they're an elected official. And what they asked me was, do we really want to see growth in Southwest? Do we really want to see new businesses get created? Do we really want to see an investment in parks and public spaces? Because if we do that, aren't we going to be putting pressure on public housing? I said, well, yes we will. But isn't that why we're being elected? Isn't that on us? Isn't that part of our job? Is that we're supposed to be there to help protect and fight for and show the value of that housing. When I look at somebody and if they're living next door to a concrete factory, that's not really an amenity for the neighborhood. That's not something that's really improving the quality of their life. If we're working to make sure that there's a great grocery store, there's small businesses creating jobs, there's parks and playgrounds for those kids, there's quality schools, it will put a market pressure on a neighborhood that could increase value and could put a demand on space. That's why we're in this job, is to help fight for and protect that housing, because every resident needs to have that great grocery store, needs to have those small businesses and jobs, needs to have those parks and playgrounds, need to have those schools. I don't say just because it's public housing, we shouldn't be developing anything. I think that we can do both, but that's part of our job. At least that's my view.
Well, thank you. Let me just, the last thing here, just some orienting information. Where are you from originally?
Originally born in Birmingham, Alabama.
Okay. And you came to the D.C. area when?
I moved to Washington, D.C. in the winter of 2000, 2001.
Where did you go to school?
At home, obviously. In Birmingham, I grew up, I went to Homewood High School, and then I went to Washington Lee University in Virginia. Then went and got a master's degree back at University of Alabama in Birmingham in public health, and then moved up here after that.
My name is Paul Taylor.
Okay, Mr. Taylor, nice to meet you. You are not a resident of Greenleaf, are you?
No, I'm not a resident of
Right.
Greenleaf.
What is your connection to this community?
Well, actually, I'm the honorary mayor of Southwest Washington, D.C., particularly this community here. I was actually raised in Southwest in the Greenleaf Gardens apartment in 1200 Delaware Avenue, Southwest.
Okay.
And so what I do is I spend majority of my time down here in Southwest just giving back. And also, I'm an employee at the King Greenleaf Recreation Center, which is located on the Greenleaf property.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you for those details. Let me just get a little background if I can. Where did you go to school?
Well, first I went to South Fax. From South Fax I went to Amadon Elementary School, and from Amadon Elementary School I went to Anthony Bourne. And from Anthony Bourne I went to Jefferson, and from Jefferson Junior High School I went to Woodrow Wilson High School.
Okay. And so you grew up in Greenleaf.
Yes.
What are your impressions of this community?
Well, what I've taken from this community, my impression of this community, I mean, it's one of a kind. You have people who have money and you have people who don't have money. You have low income, you have middle income, and you have high income. And being a product of this community actually allowed me to see, you know, people with money, how they live. Me and my friends, we used to take orders at the Safeway. And, you know, the people with the money actually used to give us change to take their orders maybe to their cars. Or they actually used to let us come to their houses or to their apartment and actually bring the groceries in there. And so you can, you know, as a kid, I can actually see the distinguish between my apartment, which was located in 1200 in low-income housing, and the apartments that was located maybe in River Park or Capitol Park. And it was always my dream, you know, once I got old enough to move out, that I was going to move in River Park.
What do you think are some of the strengths and the good things about this community?
The strengths is you have all nationalities, not like in some parts of Southeast and Northeast, where a lot of my friends, where they just grew up with a bunch of people that look like them. Growing up in Southwest, you know, I went to Amadon, which we had Asian descents, we have people from all nationalities. And having an opportunity to go to Woodrow Wilson, which was the Southwest area school, you know, you had dignitaries, kids going there, you had, you had the whole conglomerate. And so being exposed to that environment really helped to shape me who I am. Because what I do is try to bring my kid about the shadow and take them to different events where I might take them to the Shakespeare Theater, which, you know, normally a kid from the low-income housing really don't get that experience. And, you know, you don't see a lot of people that look like me at these events. So just get them a little culture shock. But growing up in Southwest, you know, I was used to being around different nationalities, so I feel comfortable no matter who in the room.
And do you recall various sorts of community celebrations, or what were some of the ways in which people come together and express their sense of belonging and the ways in which they're united?
Well, one of the biggest things was the Southwest Community House, which is a house where the majority of the low-income families went. You know, if they didn't have food, you're looking for a job, they get referrals. They used to sponsor a Family Day event, which was called Southwest Family Day. This event, which was located in Landsberg Park, and as a kid, you know, all the kids in the neighborhood looked forward to the event because everything was free. And growing up, you know, in a household where, you know, you just didn't go in the refrigerator because you could, you know, it was, you know, don't go in my refrigerator. So having the opportunity to eat how many hamburgers you want, drink how many sodas you want, and just having that day, you know, the kids in the community look forward to it. And so 7 years ago, actually that event somehow just disappeared. And so what we did was a group of us who grew up in the neighborhood, we decided to come together and bring back this event. I am the executive director of the Southwest Community Forum, which is made up of individuals who grew up in the community, and some of us still stay in the community. And what we did was bring that old Southwest Family Day feeling back to the community. And so where the kids can come out and eat for free, they get carnival rides, and that's a sense of community. And the name of the organization is Southwest Unity. So it's about unity. It's just not the low-income residents that we actually target. We also target, you know, people living in Capitol Park, living in River Park, because a lot of those organizations actually help donate. They actually donate and be a part of this.
So you mentioned that things had gone away and you brought them back. What was a part of the erosion? What was happening in that gap? Why did something like that not exist and that you had to bring it back?
Well, I think it had to do with financial. You didn't have too many leaders in the community with the drugs that was taking place, you know, the crack epidemic that went on. The Southwest House actually closed down some years ago through some, that went through some changes. So we no longer have the Southwest House. And so a lot of things played a part. It's just that, my thing was just trying to get those who grew up in the community to come back, to give back, to let the kids and the families know that, hey, I grew up in this apartment, I made it out, that you can do the same thing. And so, it's taken a life on its own. And the event just in August the 24th, August the 30th, I believe I had it. We had over 1,500 people to show up. You had families that grew up here in the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. They come back, share their experience with their childhood friends who they went to, elementary school, high school with. When we first started, a lot of people had a lot of negativity about it because there's so much shooting going on in the neighborhood. And so, when you don't experience it yourself and you're hearing it from a third-hand person, it kind of, misinformation get out there. And so a lot of people this year got to experience it for themselves. And we got nothing but kudos. And so